You did it.
I know.
How do you feel?
I can go here, turn around, go there. Hey guys, welcome to Ride Along's Test on Two Wheels. This is going to be my playlist on the Ride Along channel. I'm Teresa, but you can call me Tess. I'm a new rider, I'm an older rider, and I've been riding for a couple of years now, but I can't seem to get out of the parking lot. And I've done something really bizarre. I've bought 4 motorcycles. Let's find out why. So if you've watched the introductory episode on the Ride Along channel of John and I, you know already that my first motorcycle was a 2018 Ducati Monster 797 Plus. Meet Isabella. I bought this motorcycle because I could not take my eyes off of her in the showroom. When I first told John I wanted to learn to ride, he said, "You probably need to start on something small, maybe 300cc. And he and his friend started showing me 300cc motorcycles. But every time we would go down to the particular dealership that carried Ducati, I kept walking over to this bike. I wanted this bike. And in my own head, I was like, if I'm gonna start out on a bike, I want one that I'm not gonna outgrow in a couple of months. I want an 800cc because I'll be ready for it. So that's how I ended up with Isabella. So one of the issues that I've had learning to ride Isabella is that she was initially a little tall for me. When John was trying to teach me how to just modulate the clutch, find the friction zone, and get the motorcycle moving, my feet are dangling side to side on the motorcycle and I'm uncomfortable and I'm afraid I'm gonna drop it. And at one point, as you'll see from the video, I pulled the brake too hard and almost dumped the bike. I got past that. They took me to some parking lots, taught me how to find the friction zone in the parking lot. And then they put the bike, as you'll see from another video, they put the bike up on our deck on a stand and taught me how to shift the gears. Now, I don't necessarily recommend everybody try this, but it did help me learn how to shift those gears. So then we went back to the parking lot on the Monster and I started to learn to ride her. And I got pretty adept at getting her up to speed. Shifting gears for me is another issue. I tend to pull the throttle too hard. It frightens me. I pull my hand off the throttle. That's a no because your hand is no longer on that handlebar and you're gonna lose control of the bike. At that point, John and his friends suggested that I might do a little bit better learning on a Derby GPR 50 that John's friend had in pieces in his basement. I agreed, 50cc motorcycle. They went, they put it together, they brought it over to the house, they got it running, and they took me out, and I started to learn to ride on that. And it did pretty well. I went to 2 different parking lots on that motorcycle, and it did okay. I was ready to get back onto the Monster. John started teaching me to do things like figure eights, so I would do the right hand and the left hand turns, which was great. But I still didn't feel ready, so I took the Msf course. And here is some footage of me doing the Msf course that John snuck into the parking lot and took when I didn't know he was there. And I did really well on the course. I did have anxiety going through the course, but I did okay. To the point where when we got to the final test, in a thunderstorm, I passed with missing only 1 point because I couldn't, we were supposed to come into a right-hand turn at 3rd gear, slow down, make that turn and come out of it. I couldn't get the bike up to 3rd gear because I was afraid. And then I couldn't make a tight enough right-hand turn. So I did it once and they said, do it again. I did it again, same issues. So I missed 1 point. But all in all, I did really well. So to back up a little bit and to give you a little bit of a timeline here so we can get an idea of where I am and how I got there. Bought the Ducati Monster in February, the end of February, 1st of March. Practiced on it probably about early April. I started practicing on the GPR 50. In June, I took the Msf course, did really well. Then it got really hot and I don't do really well in hot weather, so I kind of backed off on trying to learn to ride. Spent the rest of the summer when we could get out, riding with John, me on the back of the motorcycle, him telling me, this is what you do in this situation. This is how you switch the gears. This is where you pull in the clutch. This is where you trail brake, this kind of stuff. And we'll get into what that is if you don't know. And then the season was over. And then we like to go to motorcycle dealerships, so we were just in the cooler weather, going to motorcycle dealerships, looking at bikes. And then I found a bike that I fell in love with. Meet my Triumph Bonneville T100. This is Bonnie. I saw this bike in a neighboring town dealership and I fell in love with her at first sight. I mean, who wouldn't fall in love with this bike? Fusion white, Aegean blue, she's gorgeous. And I convinced myself, because I was afraid of the Monster because I pulled the throttle too hard, I convinced myself that this bike was lower, I'd be able to learn to ride her a little more easily. She's not lower. She's about the same seat height as the Monster. So that was not part of the equation. But I insisted, and I think it was because I was so in love with her, I was gonna justify in my mind, I had to have this bike. So bought her. I was afraid to drop her because she's chrome and she's gorgeous, so I did put some SW Motec crash guards on her to keep me from hurting her. Took her out, tried to learn to ride her. I did really well, but she is a beast to handle. She's very heavy, and my fear of dropping her has kept me from wanting to take her on the road. Because I'm afraid something's gonna happen quickly, I'm gonna have to brake, and I'm gonna dump her. And I don't want that to happen. Then the season was over again. It got to be colder weather, and I started to really think about why can I not get out of a parking lot? Why can I not get out of my own way? What is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me. I just tend to overthink things. So then I started to think, maybe I should have listened to John and his friend in the first place and gotten a lower CC motorcycle. What if I go out and I buy a lower CC motorcycle that's used, that I don't have to worry about, that I can drop it, that I can pull throttle and it's not gonna be too much torque that it's gonna throw me off and scare the heck out of me. So I started to look at Honda Rebel 300s and wanted a used one, could not find one anywhere. So I started to look at new ones. And I did find one at a dealership that's a couple of hours away. She was still in the crate. So that is how I ended up with my Honda Rebel 300 ABS. And this is Maggie. And I love this bike. She's a fantastic bike. She's much lower. So the issue with me dangling my feet and not being able to put my feet down went away with her. And I bought her in November. And it was too cold to ride. But then in December of that year, we had a warm spell, one warm day, and I said to John, I want to take Maggie out. I need to get on that bike, let's do it. So I'm gonna show you two photographs of me on Maggie. I didn't have on the right gear. I did great on the bike. I had a great time. He also would not let me go to the parking lot. He was like, we're gonna do it in the neighborhood and you're gonna get used to stop signs and traffic and parked cars. You can do it. So we did. And I did okay, and I started to get really, really confident, and I was doing really well, and I was making the stop signs, and I was setting up my stops at the stop signs to where I could make the appropriate turns and not feel overwhelmed and I was really proud of myself. And we worked on this for 2 or 3 hours. It was time to come home. And we live on a street that comes down a hill and then a driveway that comes up a hill. And if you come in, and I remember, I don't do right turns very well. So I'm coming down the hill, need to make a right turn up the driveway, and John says to me in my earpiece, don't do it, don't make that right turn. Go down, turn around, come back, and go in on the left. But I was feeling so confident I was gonna show John, I can do this. So I tried, came flying down that street, and of course for me, flying is probably 20 miles an hour. Went wide to the left to hit that turn, did right, and John's in my ear saying, pull throttle, because he knows I have to get up that driveway. Well, I did, but I don't think I looked in the right place. I think I target fixated off the side of the driveway, and we'll learn why that's bad. Off the driveway I went. I wasn't scared. John says I giggled the entire way going up the driveway. I think I was more freaked out. But I got the bike stopped in the grass off the side of the driveway. Problem was, hill, too much momentum, the bike still fell over on me. But if you'll remember from those photos, and I'll show you real quick here, I didn't have on the right gear. I had on short boots and jeans that were not long enough, so when I sat on the bike, my shins were exposed, and I hit my front of my shin on the back of this peg. And it's not necessarily a hard peg. I mean, it is metal, and but it does have some rubber on it. I whacked my shin so hard that I thought I broke my shin. I couldn't walk when I got up from dumping this bike. John had to come over and help me get her up, get her back on the driveway, get her into the garage. And all that to say is we're gonna talk about proper gear. After that, I didn't ride her again. Not because I was afraid, because I'm not necessarily afraid to ride her, but because it was December, then it got cold again, January, February, and then this past March, because this happened last December, I saw a post on Facebook of somebody who had just bought a Honda Monkey. And I remembered a Honda Monkey that I had seen in a dealership several months ago and fell in love with. And I had told myself at the time, I gotta have one of those bikes. One day I'm gonna buy one of those cute little bikes. Meet George. George is a 2019 Honda Monkey 125cc motorcycle. He's tiny, he's fun, he's cute. I had to have him. And John at one point suggested to me, you know, what if you try to start to learn to ride on George? It's really not a bad idea. If I can master George, then move up to the Honda Rebel, then move up to either the Monster or the Bonneville, it might be an easier trajectory for me. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start on George. So I guess what I want to say here is if you're a new rider, you're an older rider, or maybe you haven't even started to learn to ride yet, anxiety is okay. Don't do what I did and go out and buy 4 motorcycles because you had to keep finding something else because you're too afraid to go out and ride. Seriously, start with a learner bike. You'll be happy you did. If you need to sell it, move on to the next bike. So my challenge to myself is to learn to ride George. So in the next video, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get George out of the garage and we're gonna learn to ride him. I hope you'll stay with me on this journey and follow me as I try to learn to ride and I try to get out of a parking lot once and for all. I'd love to have you along. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you as part of the Ride Along family. Until next time, take care.